Estate planning, when we're dealing with blended families, is often overlooked, but is very critical. Uh, for example, this is a situation that is not unheard of, and I'm not going to say that I see frequently, but I do see it on a fairly regular basis. Usually the situation is an older couple, second marriages each, they each have children from their first marriage, and they get married and they start combining their assets, and then one passes away. In the absence of planning, that can be problematic because often the situation is the surviving spouse, because they have commingled their assets together, the surviving spouse becomes the beneficiary or the recipient of all of the marital assets, or at least a significant part of them. And then later, when the surviving spouse passes away, usually between that first death and the second death, one of the children makes sure that either mom or dad does some kind of an estate plan to make sure that all of the estate goes to the children of the surviving spouse who passed away second. So we end up with a situation where everything that the first spouse to die worked for an entire lifetime basically ends up in the hands of stepchildren, and their own children are often written out and get nothing. It's really important when we're dealing with a blended family situation that we make sure that either a couple plan how they're going to deal with their joint assets, if they're going to keep things separate and have completely separate plans for their own children, to the extent that they commingle things and own things together. How are those things going to be dealt with if one passes away, which is usually the situation before the other one? What will happen when the second one dies? Who's going to receive those things? How will all of the children be protected if, in fact, that's the goal of the couple? It's just important to make sure that people ask those questions, that they answer those questions, that they get the advice of an attorney, that documents be drafted correctly, because it's very common for those kinds of circumstances to end up in litigation. Estates can be eroded quickly with the cost of litigation because a side of the family basically that ended up without anything. And so blended families can sometimes be a difficult topic. And even when clients come in and they start asking the questions about estate planning, and we inquire and start asking about the kids and what do they want to do. I've seen couples get upset with each other even in a consultation because they're often very protective of their own children, and that's understandable, and they want to make sure that those protections are provided for. Sometimes there's hard feelings about the other's children. You're always giving them something that, they're not responsible. You're helping them out too much. You're giving away. So sometimes there can be a conflict. So it's important to also understand that when we're asking those questions, people need to be prepared to deal with the emotion that comes with that, and be able to communicate their concerns, especially with a husband and a wife, in a way that hopefully doesn't create a conflict between themselves. And so part of my job, I think, at least when I'm dealing with those things, is to try to help the couple reconcile those concerns with each other in a way that helps to minimize that conflict, and maybe make suggestions about things and confirm factually, whether or not a person's perceptions are even true. So, for example, one may think that they're helping out an adult child too much and that's causing conflict, but the adult child has a disease, can't take care of, needs the help, and it's not inappropriate for that help to be given. Whereas, you may have a situation where you've got an adult child who has never worked and just is depending upon mom for everything and is 40 years old. Well, maybe husband is right when he's pointing the finger the enabling that's going on there. So being the objective mind and sometimes bringing those things into focus can help people avoid that conflict when they're making those estate planning decisions, and ensuring that everybody is treated as fairly. Ultimately, it's the goals and objectives of the parties, and minimizing conflict between the couple, but also minimizing conflict between the beneficiaries when the second person does pass away. It's just critical that we try to tackle those things, and also be aware of whether or not somebody is being the target of undue influence, because maybe one spouse has already passed away and we've got a child or children bringing the surviving spouse in order to try to take complete control over the entire estate, when really some of that estate should go to the children of the first person who's passed away.